who are not able to make the meeting tonight, and they want to know when we're going to do another online one. And to be honest with you, I do not know. So if we can record this and get them out to a few people, that would be great. In addition, for those of you who are on here early, we will be doing a live presentation. It's going to be probably more FAFSA based on September 26th at Heritage High School. I'll be the featured speaker, and I expect it to be standing room or only. So if you do want to come, that would be fine. But one thing I want to warn you about is that the auditorium is full. There's usually standing room only, people on the side, people out in the lobby listening in. So if you find value in this and you would like to come and listen to me again, and I'll be doing it again live, then feel free, but get there early. And if you have friends that have kids that are in high school and are trying to figure out this entire process, I'll tell you, it would be a good idea if they attend this. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with this evening. For those of you who are on time, I like to be on time. It is right at 7 o'clock. I'm going to just basically give you a lot of strategies. I'm going to give you an insider's view of paying for college, different strategies of what you need to do. If you're anyone or just like myself in 2005, when I went through this process, I was absolutely lost. And when I mean lost, I mean lost. I have a daughter who was a senior in high school in 2005, and I'll tell you, it was a real challenge getting her to get just through the whole process. Not only her, it was me, because it seemed like every other week my daughter was online or calling me, Dad, we need to do this, Dad, we need to do this. And I'm like, what the heck? At the time, I was a 27-year veteran, at that time really about 25-year veteran of the mortgage industry, and I had about 14, 15 loan officers working for me, and I had a full staff, and it seemed like every other day my daughter would go ahead and say, Dad, I need you to do this, Dad, I need you to do that. I'm like, what is all of this stuff? Because when I went to college, it was a very simple process. And the process was you applied to 2 or 3 schools, you got accepted, you went to college. It was not that expensive. And as a result, the process was very, very smooth. Well, I have news for you. Everything has changed. And so my daughter was really eye-opening. And one of the things that really was interesting was, you know, even though I'm a 6-figure earner, I thought that I would get some type of help to pay for college. And guess what? I got absolutely no help when it comes to the paying side. Now, if I would have known what I know now, then I could have really cut the cost of a college education very greatly. But it is what it is. I've learned that experience. So parents, you know, I'm just like you, because it's not only that, you know, my lovely daughter, who is now a graduate, she went to Howard University for undergrad. She took off for a few years. And the reason for that is as a junior in college, she called me, and her whole life I had heard how much she wanted to be a veterinarian. And guess what happened? Things changed. At the middle of her junior year, she calls me up and says, Dad, I am tired of college, and I don't want to go to college for another 6 years. I don't want to be a veterinarian anymore. I'm just tired of college, but I want to stay in the health field. But I'm just tired of college. I want to get my degree. I've been talking to my advisor, and my advisor advised me that, you know, it would be great to look at becoming a nurse. And so she said, Dad, only one problem with that. I'm a biology major, and in order for me to proceed in the nursing program, I need to have a nursing degree as well. So I have to go to college for another year. So I ended up having to pay for college for a 5th year. And again, that is not cheap. College on average will cost the family anywhere from $25,000 per year to $60,000, $70,000 per year. So it just depends. Again, there's a lot more to this. Fortunately, my daughter did some interning. She found herself, and she found out that people who are in the nursing industry get yelled at a lot when they work in a hospital. People are not very nice. And when I'm talking about the customer because they are sick and they're not in the best moods. But she said, Dad, in the basement, guess what? I went down there and volunteered, and I found the field of occupational therapy. And by doing that, she said, Dad, they look forward to me coming in. So that's when she got back on track to go to grad school. And when she decided to get serious about this and go to grad school, she applied, and she finally got into the school she wanted to go to, which was NYU. The only problem with NYU, they are not a cheap date. It is very expensive, but their occupational therapy program is number 4 and 5 annually of occupational therapy programs in the country. So it's very important that, you kind of really get an idea of what your kid wants to do as far as a major, because it can make a huge difference on how expensive it's going to be for you. So again, as a parent, I get it. I've been there, but guess what? Not only am I the parent of a recent college graduate for grad school, actually. She's doing a 9-month internship at NYU. And then she goes ahead and steps into the real world of being an occupational therapist, but starting at $90,000 a year, which is a wonderful thing because then hopefully she can be out of my wallet forever. But guess what? I have a 17-year-old senior, like most of you. And my 17-year-old senior goes to American Canyon High, where I live. And so I'm going through this process all over again. Now, he is quite different than his sisters. He is not as academic, so we may take a different route with him, but it doesn't matter. He'll be successful whichever way we decide to go. So, again, the reason I tell you that story is because I'm not just a professional college planner, which I've been doing for 12 years now. I am a parent of a senior, just like you, and I know I'm going through this whole process all over again. So on this first slide, basically, it kind of talks about some of the places that we have presented. I have been all over. In the last 12 years, I've been on so many television and radio shows that I just put some of these up there. Again, I have a pretty good idea of what I'm talking about when it comes to this industry. Okay, we've assisted over 1,000 families figure out how to pay for this, how to get money for college, how to successfully get their kid in the right major, the right career. So this is nothing new for us. And that's one reason that we are asked back at Liberty High School Union District every single year. And it's been a blessing. So we spoke very, very briefly last week at Liberty at the college night. So that's where most of you came across us. And I want to applaud most of you for being on the call this evening because you're being proactive, because a lot of families will procrastinate. And when I say procrastinate, they want to put off. They think it's just as easy as it was when they went to college. And lo and behold, and what's going to happen in May is next year, coming up, April, May, what's going to happen is I'm going to get about 20 to 30 calls from parents who have not prepared financially. Their kids are going to be accepted at colleges across the country, and they're going to see that it's going to cost them anywhere between $25,000 and $50,000 a year for their kid to go to college. And they're going to be in panic mode because the kid did what they were supposed to be doing, and the parents did not. Nothing, bad about the parents. That's kind of, normal for California and especially the country, because especially in California, actually, because the cost of living here is much more expensive. So you make $100,000 in California, it's much different than making $100,000 in Iowa somewhere. So again, we kind of get penalized. The middle class is always the ones that get screwed. So, but again, tonight I'm going to give you some insider information on this process and some things that you may need to do in order, hopefully, to save you guys some money. Let's see here. All right. Now, figuring out financial aid, it is a process. Now, let me move my little screen here around. And the cost of college is what we're going to talk about tonight. Who, what, why, when, and where. FAFSA, expected family contribution. CSS profile. If you have a smart kid that is thinking about applying at some highly rated private schools, we'll go over the CSS profile. What happens if you don't qualify for aid? Filling out the FAFSA step-by-step after FAFSA. Loan options. So the cost of college, going back to 2015-16, when I say cost of attendance, I'm talking about the overall cost of a college education. And the overall cost of a college education, again, can be very costly. But when I'm talking numbers, I'm not just going to give you tuition. And I'm not going to give you the 6-year graduation numbers for your kid to go to college, because if you as a parent have not been on any college's website, what you'll find out is that the colleges are going to provide you with the 6-year graduation rate. Yes, 6 years. Why is that? Because classes are impacted at many schools across the country. So on average, the state schools, well, this is across the country now, 19,550 at state schools. At state schools out of state, about 34. But in reality, you're probably looking in California, when you're looking out of state schools, you're talking about 42, 43. University of Oregon will be about 44,500 this year for out-of-state California students. In-state schools, in-state, the cost of attendance, it'll be about 25,000 a year. Private schools, on average, 43,920. That's more like $60,000 a year. Okay, there are private schools out there that are in the $43,000 to $50,000 a year range, but generally they are much smaller than a lot of the traditional type colleges. But I am personally a big fan of the much smaller schools, and the reason for that is much smaller schools, you get one-on-one help, where if any of you are thinking about the University of California system, which used to be the #1 in the country, I would probably have a few second thoughts. I mean, nothing wrong with the UCs, but let's take the UC Davis. The average classroom size at UC Davis is 600 to 700 students per class, okay? That is a lot of students in a classroom. Actually, they're going to be in a auditorium, and they're going to be taught by a teacher's aide. They're not going to be taught by the instructors. And so if you have the type of student that does not fit well in large school experiences, and when I mean that, if they need help, they're not going to get a whole lot of help in the UC system. Now, the time can contribute to the overall cost of a college education. The public school, the 4-year average and graduation rate is 33%, 5 years, 52%, 6 years, 58% in public schools. Private schools, 53%, 4 years, 63.5, 6 years, 65%. So again, you have to take a look. You have to take that into the equation when you're talking about paying for college. How do I get scholarships and grants? Merit aid. Most of you, if you've never heard this term before, merit aid is an award that is awarded by the schools. It's funded by the schools. It's based on your student's admission application, academic or athletic. But I like to talk about academic, because academic is where it is. It's the higher your kid's GPA, the higher their test scores, the more extracurricular activities that they do, and more importantly, their college personal statement essay. Very often, your families don't spend much time on that, but I'll tell you, that can, if you tell the right story to the right school, it can mean additional funding for your family, and that's what you guys need to look for, because college is expensive. Need-based aid is based on income, assets, number of people in your house, and I'm going to go over the formula in a little bit for you guys. FAFSA, who files it? High school seniors fill it out for the first time in October 2017. College students, not a one-time thing. So remember, if you are going to complete the FAFSA coming up, if you have a senior, guess what's going to happen? You're going to have to complete that FAFSA every single year. Again, and you must file it for each student. What is it? The FAFSA is a free application for federal student aid. It's free, no cost to complete. Administered by the U.S. Department of Education, used by almost all state schools and most private schools to distribute both federal and institutional need-based financial aid. When you file FAFSA, what does it do? It does not give you money. What FAFSA does, it determines your family's expected family contribution, and once you know that number is the minimum amount of money that the federal government says that your family has to come up with to pay for college. Now, why do we file it?
because it calculates, again, your expected family contribution, and again, using the federal methodology that 90% of the schools use. What happens once you complete the FAFSA, it's distributed your EFC to all the schools, up to 10 designated. EFC will be the same at all schools. Now, I often get this question: what if my kid is going to apply to more than 10 schools? So what you do is you wait. I would generally say about 5 working days once the your information as far as your Social Security number has been confirmed by the Internal Revenue Service that you are who you are. They'll send that information over to FAFSA. Then FAFSA is going to distribute to the 10 schools. Now, what happens is after it sends it to those 10 schools, then you'll be able to go in. You need to get a confirmation from the schools that they received the FAFSA. Then you can go back into the system and you can delete the schools that are in the FAFSA currently, and then you can put in additional schools and then resubmit that, and it'll go to the other schools that your student may be looking at. How many schools should your student be applying to? Well, I generally suggest to a family that they apply to at least 10 schools, not a whole lot more than 10 schools. And 10 schools is a really good number. And by applying to 10 schools, that way what will happen is generally you may get accepted, depending on your kid's background. I usually say 6 to 7 of those schools. And again, those schools are schools that you're going to get a different award and a different offer from every single school. So don't think because you're applying at different schools, say different UCs. The number that you get back from UCs is going to be different. The number that you're going to get from CSUs will be relatively the same, but that number you're going to get from the private school can be vastly different. So again, you want to make sure that when you are doing this, that you really take the time and apply it to 10 schools. Now, FAFSA opens October 1st, 2017. The free application for federal student aid, where do we file it? You need to go to www.fafsa.ed.gov. If you Google FAFSA.com, you will have a company that you will think is the official FAFSA site. But what will happen is after you complete it, then you're going to get a bill for about $100 asking you to send them a check. Now, a lot of families do not like dealing with the FAFSA, and I actually charge $99, $100 ourselves as a company. If families do not want to deal with this, what we do is we set up an appointment and we do it with them. We make sure that they're not going to make any mistakes, because it's very common for many families to make mistakes on the FAFSA, and we don't want that to happen to you. So what happens if you're a family that lives out in, let's say, this area called Brentwood? I probably won't qualify for need-based aid. Should I bother with filling out the FAFSA? Absolutely. Families often think their income is too high to qualify when in fact it is not. Some schools require FAFSA to be submitted to qualify for merit aid. Federal student loans for both students, Stafford Direct, and parents are offered through this process. Everyone should complete a FAFSA. Expected family contribution. I want to go back 1 second, because I want to talk to you about one step that is not on here. It's probably going to come up a little later. But I want you to write down FAFSA, I want you to write down F as in Frank, S as in Sam, I as in income, FSAID.ed.gov. I'm going to repeat that. Federal Student Aid ID.ed.gov stands for FSAID.ed.gov. What that is where you need to register. You, as a parent, one of the parents needs to go into that site and register and get your login, username, and password. You can't complete the FAFSA until you have that. And in addition to that, your student has to go in and do the same thing. It takes you about 20 minutes to do this. So before, if you attempt to do the FAFSA on your own, you're going to need to do that again. So I'm going to repeat that. F as in Frank, S as in Sam, A as in Apple, I as in income, D as in dog. FSAID.ed.gov will get you to that site. Since you guys are being proactive, I would go on that site this week, complete that information and get your username and password. You guys are proactive, and again, I want to applaud you for taking the time to come out and get this information tonight. So, expected family contribution is the out-of-pocket cost that the federal government says that you're going to have to come up with to pay for college. So again, don't let this intimidate you much, but this is what it's based on. Parent income, parent assets, number of people in the household, number of students. It must include untaxed income like child support. Parents' assets use balance on the day you complete your FAFSA. Parents get an asset protection allowance based on the age of the older parent. Student income. You do not want your student during the school year to make more than $6,570 because if they do, then that is going to count against you in the financial aid formula. So when you get close to that amount, make sure your student quits because it can cost you a lot of money. Student assets, use balance on the day you complete your FAFSA, no asset protection allowance for students. Students' assets are assessed more heavily than parents' assets. What that means is if you have money in your student's name and you have, say, $100,000 in your kid's name because one of your coworkers said it was a good idea to put the money in the kid's name, you just screwed yourself. That is the worst thing you could possibly do. You want to keep the money in your name, and the reason for that is it is assessed at 5.64% if it's in the student's name, in the parent's name, and it is assessed at 20% if it's in the student's name. So what does that mean? So that means that if you have $100,000 in assets in mom and dad's bank accounts, and that includes mutual funds, stocks, CDs, bonds, everything, then that disqualifies you of about $5,600 of financial aid. If you have $100,000 in your students' bank accounts in their assets, you just disqualified yourself of $20,000 of financial aid. Yes, $20,000. That's a ton of money. So again, don't listen to the person that you think has been through this. Remember, even if they have been through this, their numbers are not. So they can give you advice which may have been perfect for them, but guess what? That may not be perfect for your situation. Every family's financial profile is absolutely different. So we want to make sure that you're going to get the correct information. Now, this year when you complete the FAFSA, guess what? They're going to look at your 2016 tax return, not this year's tax returns, 2017. They're going to look at 2016. If you have other siblings, say you have a junior in high school, at that point they're going to look at your 2017s. If you have a sophomore coming up, they'll be looking at your 2018 tax return. If you have a freshman coming up, they'll be looking at your 2019 tax return. So again, every year that your student is in college, you're going to have to complete the FAFSA. Now, countable assets. This is something that you need to know. If you have money in cash, not necessarily you have to tell them that, but I'm just saying you're supposed to report that. If you have money in your checking account, savings account, stocks, bonds, CDs, money markets, mutual funds, 529s, rental properties, vacation homes, stock options, trust accounts, student-owned assets, guess what? All of these areas count against you in the financial aid formula. So this is what FAFSA is looking at. This is what the schools are looking at. Now, these are assets that do not impact your need. Retirement accounts, annuities, home equity, cash value of permanent life insurance, family farm, small business assets, family owned and controlled, fewer than 101 employees. These do not count against you in the financial aid formula. So again, there are certain ways that you can possibly reposition assets in and out of the financial aid formula. And again, but you have to understand how to do it, who's doing it. I'll tell you, there are a lot of people out there with no integrity whatsoever. So be very careful on who you talk to about this, because there are a lot of people out there who are just interested in making a commission on you. And again, I'm a parent, so I understand what you're going through. I feel your pain, and again, I want to make sure that you guys get good, pertinent information. So let me give you the process. Your process is this: the cost of attendance. Let's just leave the number of $60,000. You completed the FAFSA. Your expected family contribution is, let's say, $20,000. That will give you an eligibility of need of $40,000. Now, $40,000 is the amount that you may get from the school, but we don't know because many of the schools will only give you let me back up a little bit. Every school in the country will only provide you with a certain percentage, which is determined by that particular school. So you could apply to, say, a school like maybe St. Mary's, and they cover 67%. A few years back, Chapman University covered 100%. I think they're right around 70%. So instead of you getting the whole 40,000, you're not going to get that. You're going to get a lower amount. There are some schools out there that may cover 100%. Stanford covers 100%. Ivy League schools cover 100%. But again, those schools are very tough to get into. So again, as college planners, we understand this, and then we have software programs that give us that number. So again, even if you're a high income, high net worth family, guess what? You still have a chance of getting some money out of some of these schools. So most commonly asked questions, how much money can we still make and qualify for need-based aid? This is an example of two families that one family, well, they both made 120. If you see their expected family EFCs are 24,000 for one family, the other family is 33,000. What's the difference? The age of the parents are different, and the number of their family, the family size is different. So that's when I tell you assets are different. When I tell you that don't always depend on information from other parents, because what they provide you the information is not the same as your information. So, you know, they may have, you know, their good heart in mind when they give you information, but it could be wrong information and they don't even know it. So let's take a look here. Let's take a family, the Brown family, and let's add this. The Smith family has a family size of 5, Jones a family size of 4, Brown the family size of 6. Take a look at the age of the older parent. It makes a difference. Look at the income of the three families, 120, 120, 185. The parent assets, about 75 grand with the Brown family. The assets for the Jones family is about 160,000, and parent assets are about 50,000. Student income, 3,000, 5,000, 4,000. Student assets, 2, 12, 3. That is why see the EFC of 33,000 for the Jones family? That's why it's higher for the Jones family, because they have money. They have a lot of money in their kids' name. Remember, I told you that counts against you $6,000 right off the top. So excuse me, so 12,000, 20%, 20% of that, yes, actually it's close to it. So again, you have to be very careful where you position your family's financials. Now, let me go back a little. This family qualifies for need-based aid at, see that I'm talking about the Brown family. They qualify for need-based aid at 646 out of 2267, or 28.4% of four-year colleges across the country. Every school has an award history. What percentage of a family's need is the school going to meet? That's something that you need to know. What type of aid is the school likely to give? Remember, every school is different. So again, every school is different. What that means is that's why you have to throw out a wide net when you're doing this. But you don't want to apply to too many schools, because first of all, it's about 70 to 70 applications. So again, make sure that you have to do a good job of nailing down the amount of schools that your kid is going to apply to. And one of the big rules I always tell families to do is do not let your student take over this entire process. Please, please talk to them about the cost of a college education, because I often have families that come into my office and say that, well, we kind of let them take over. And then what happens is, by doing that, the kid is all excited, and they may even get accepted to the school of their choice, and then you get the award letter, and guess what? Parents can't afford to send a kid to that school. So again, if you know ahead of time what the actual cost may be, then that just saves you a heck of a lot of heartache. Now, the financial aid process, grant aid at four-year colleges, this is where the money comes from. At public colleges, you see it's pretty equal between institutional, state, federal, and other. But at private four-year colleges, the main amount of money comes directly from the colleges. That's why I say you need to apply to some colleges that are private, even though they may advertise that they're going to cost $60,000 a year. Now, the CSS profile form. The CSS profile is a supplemental financial aid application that is a bear. I do this for the families that are in our membership, and it's going to take me an hour and a half closer to 2 hours for me to complete this with the family right there. I did several last year. If they do not leave any stone unturned, they want to know everything, what it's going to cost for financially for you. So again, you may qualify for financial aid at a FAFSA school. Well, guess what? What if you are in a situation where you got divorced? And if you're in a divorce situation or the ex-spouse is not around anymore, guess what happens at CSS Profile School? They want you to go find the ex-spouse, and you have to put their amount of money, and it's called non-custodial parent, and that counts against you in that financial aid formula. Well, with the FAFSA, the non-custodial parent doesn't exist. If you are divorced or you're not living, or you're legally separated, guess what? They only count the income of the spouse that the student lives with 51% of the time in the school year. So again, the CSS Profile is administered by the College Board. It digs much deeper than the FAFSA. The cost is $9 to register and $16 per school. So that's going to be an additional cost for you. But if you'd like to go in and check it out, each one of you, your kids should have a College Board ID. So get their username and password. They should have gotten that last year. So you can go into College Board and kind of poke around a little bit if you wanted to see what it's like. Now, the CSS Profile form, it uses the institutional method. It's required by very selected private colleges, except these are some of the more notable state colleges that adhere to the CSS Profile. Now, some of the local colleges that have just added this year were University of San Francisco and Santa Clara. So if you're planning on applying at those schools, guess what? You know, it may cost you more or less to go to that school, but it's more of a pain in the you-know-what, if you know what I'm talking about, because you're going to have to complete that form. So again, be very careful. Of the roughly 4,000 institutions nationwide, about 3,775 require only FAFSA. 225 require a CSS Profile form. Now, this is very important for you guys to know. The deadline is set by each school, so you need to do the research and know the date. Early action for the CSS Profile is November 1st, which means you need to get if you're going to early action, if you don't know what that means, let me tell you what it means. There are 3 different ways to apply. You can go early decision. Early decision is a contract, so I do not suggest any of you let your kid apply early decision. Early action is where you apply early. Usually you're limited to 2 or 3 schools. And by applying early action, it is not a contract. But guess what? If you apply early decision, you get accepted. Say your out-of-pocket cost is $45,000 a year, but your kid applied to all these other schools, and you have another school where your out-of-pocket cost is going to be $20 or $25 a year. Guess what? You are screwed because you are locked into that contract. So again, early action and just regular decision is the way you want to go for your family and for your kid. How the CSS Profile form is different, again, I kind of went over that a few minutes ago, but again, they just dig much deeper into your business. And again, they want to know a lot of information, where the FAFSA is more of a basic financial aid application. The CSS Profile, they want 3 years of income information, prior, actual, current, and next year's estimate as well. They may ask again about the non-custodial parent. So let me tell you the types of aid. Think of it as this: FAFSA, Federal Must, CSS Profile, Institutional Plus. I must do a FAFSA for federal aid if the college requires it. I will do FAFSA Plus and the CSS Profile. So you have to do both applications if your kid is going to go to that type of school. Well, again, go to collegeboard.org for more information on that. Hopefully you guys got that straight. I'm going to give you a second. Again, that's collegeboard.org if you want information on if your kid is going to apply at, say, USC. Let me go back. Let me backstep just a little bit. USC has one of the earliest application and CSS Profile deadlines in the country. So if USC is on your kid's list of schools, this has to be completed by late November. Deadline is December 1st. So one other thing, if you're talking to your student, you wouldn't believe how many students on some college applications, it will ask the student, do you want to be considered for scholarships and financial aid? And you would not believe how many students, every year I hear 2 or 3 students that said, no, my parents, we don't need it. I have news for you. They don't understand the financial ramifications of a college education and how expensive it's going to be. A college education will be, other than the purchase of your home, is the most expensive outlay of your income and your assets over your lifetime. Okay? Especially if you have 2 or 3 kids, you are talking, depending on what school they go to, you can be talking $400,000 or $500,000. Now, let me ask you this. When you guys first started looking for your homes, if you own a home, did you start the year before? Start saving money for, that to purchase that home? The answer to that question is no. Well, unfortunately, a lot of parents procrastinate because they don't understand the financial ramifications of how the cost of a college education. So again, I just want to applaud you guys for being on the webinar tonight. We've got a nice amount of families, but this could have been, it should be hundreds of families on here. It's not. We have probably close to the 20 family range on here. But guess what, you guys? It's great that you're on here and it's early, because I'll tell you, it's just going to be harder and harder as the next few months get by for you to get more and more information. So again, I applaud you for that. So again, paying for college, parent contribution plus the student contribution, parent income, parent assets, student income, student assets will make you aid advantage with the parent. Okay? Now let's go. Know before you move any income and assets. That's the bottom line, is you need to know. Sometimes it might make sense to move a few assets into the student's name if you're not going to be aid eligible anyway. There's a few financial strategies that we use, and I'm not going to go much into that tonight. That's more of a one-on-one conversation, because most of you, your financial situation is different. So again, I'm kind of giving you sort of a basic this evening on what this costs and what you need to look out for. So again, 2016-17 FAFSA changes. Colleges do not see other schools a student is applying to when the FAFSA is submitted. It used to be they used to see all the schools that you're applying to. So that is good, because schools, often if you didn't list the school as a #1 choice, then they would lower the amount of money that they would actually pony up for you. Now, you see Notre Dame. Remember I told you a little earlier about schools that cover 100% of need? Did you know Notre Dame covers 100% of need? But again, it's tougher to get into the University of Notre Dame. It's back in South Bend, Indiana. But again, you're going to have a pretty good student to get into a school like this. And most of the schools that are highly rated, they'll help you a lot more than schools that are not. But again, they're looking for that student that has done a great job while they're in high school. So again, college selection is very important. What about families who will not qualify need-based aid? That is probably most of you. I don't know what your situation looks like. Some of you may qualify. And again, there's the different grants in California. We have the Cal Grant. The Cal Grant is free money from the state of California. I think if you make, I think it's $96,000 a year, that or less, and your student has a 3.0, that is a Cal Grant eligible kid, but one kicker. You can't have more than about $70,000 in liquid assets. Now, because you're on this webinar tonight, now I'll let you know there are some legal strategies to shelter your assets out of the financial aid formula only if it makes sense. That's why I tell you have to be very careful about this, because there's some people out there with no scruples, they have no integrity, and they're basically saying that their whole goal is to get parents to do financial stuff with them. Now, we suggest it if it makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, what's the point? Okay? I've been doing this again for 12 years. I just turned 60 years old. You will not find anything negative on me online, hopefully. I haven't seen anything in 12 years. And again, because what we try to do is we try to do a good job for families and make sure that, we operate on a level of integrity that's going to provide us to get a ton of referrals, which is generally how we get a majority of our families. But again, every year we are asked to come and speak at a number of high schools. And generally when I say us, that's generally me, myself. Sometimes I'll bring a financial guy with me. But again, depends on the school. The schools this year out in the Liberty Union School District have tightened up on bringing particular financial guides with us. But I also do that. Sometimes I can take off my college planning hat and I could put on my college funding financial advisor hat. So we can do that as well. But again, I'm generally a little overwhelmed every year as we get closer and closer to the end of the year. More and more families contact us, and we only take on a number of families every year. When we get to a certain amount, then we stop. Why? I'll tell you why. Because we want to make sure that you get the attention that you're going to need in order to be successful at this. Again, it's not just about bringing on more income. It's about servicing people like yourself. So when you go to complete that FAFSA, these are the things that you're going to need. Social Security number, alien registration, most recent federal income tax returns, records of untaxed income, bank statements and records of investment, FSA ID. Again, I just told you, for those of you who just joined us recently, you need to go to that FSAID.ed.gov. It's the last on the last column at the bottom there. Go in there this week, and you're going to need one parent is going to have to complete that, and your student is going to have to complete that, because when we do the FAFSA, they're going to ask you for your user ID and password as the student. At the end, when we file it with the FAFSA with the government, then it's going to ask for the student's user ID and password. So both of you will need that. So be sure that both of you take care of that ahead of time. Now, I'm going to go a little bit into FAFSA. Again, this is what it looks like. FAFSA, the website is fafsa.ed.gov. So what you want to know, when you go into FAFSA, this is what it looks like. You can go this way, or you can go directly into the link that I just gave you. So by doing that, it's going to ask you email address can only be used once. So make sure that you and your student don't use the same email address. Choose a unique username. It'll tell you if it's already taken. Remember, this system was all the parents and students across the country. So make sure that it's a unique name, because if it's something that's just very common, they'll let you know. And it's going to ask you for a number, uppercase letter, a lowercase letters, special characters. It's between 8 and 30 characters. It's going to ask you, are you 13 years of age or older? And most likely you are, and you're going to have to confirm this information. It's going to ask you for social security number, date of birth, first name, first name, a middle initial or middle name, last name. Now, question that I need to tell you about, because it comes up every year. You may use a nickname. Many people are born William. My first name is Daniel. I do not like using the name Daniel. I use Dan all the time. But on certain forms, like your tax returns, you have to make sure that this information matches. So what is ever on record with the Internal Revenue Service is the name that you use. Every year I get a call from somebody that they're having problems with the system. And, they may have been using a nickname for several years, but their official name is not what's used by the federal government. So make sure that you use that official name. Verify the email code that's sent to your email. We'll link your FSID with your email so you can log in with either your FSID or your email. Distinguish between student and parent. Again, both of you are going to need that. Now, when you're completing the FAFSA, the blue is the student. The parent financial information is the lighter blue. You would be surprised how many parents get this mixed up every year. Now, again, this is what the site looks like. Start a new FAFSA is what you're going to do. And the student is going to complete this section with their information on the first, not the parent. Parents always make this mistake when you log in. This is the student's information. There's 3 login options: FSID and password, verified email and password, student information, name, social security, and date of birth. Just be sure to select the correct year, as last year's FAFSA will still be an option. So again, start 2018-19 is the school year for your kid. So 2017-18, that's for students that just were this year starting off in college. This is what we use for last year's students that were seniors. Again, that's the one you want to use. Introduction page, where to get help, how long it's going to complete, student demographics, student aid eligibility, so on and so forth. So this is pretty basic information. Again, it saves every page. It's saved automatically once you complete a page. But make sure that at the end, every year, FAFSA locks me out. It'll say, I'll go back into the system and to make some changes, and guess what? The information is gone. That has happened to me. Last year, it did not. I apologize. Last year was the first year where it didn't. The previous 5 to 7 years, 8 years, it did. So again, make sure that you save each page. Colleges where FAFSA will be sent, you want to make sure you put this and you add them. This is actually giving you some great information. You have to put whether they're going to live on campus or live with a parent. Generally select on campus, because if they live on campus, it's generally a little more expensive. And what does that mean? That means your financial aid offer is going to be based on the more expensive cost for you as a family. So again, you can add a school, you can delete schools. I told you what to do if you have more than 10 schools that you're going to be applying to. Again, it automatically saves after each section. Now, this is what I get. See, a lot of parents, you guys are under the misnomer that, you know, as soon as my kid goes to college, they're out of my house, so they're going to file the FAFSA. I got news for you. According to the Department of Education, you are the responsibility of paying for college is yours as a parent until they graduate from undergrad. The only way you can be determined as an independent if the student is age 24, have children, active in or a veteran of the armed forces, ward of the state, emancipated through the court system, homeless, completed an undergraduate, and working on an advanced degree. That's it. So don't think because your kid is out of the house that, oh, they're independent now, they're going to file their own taxes. It doesn't matter to the school. So again, you have to, the only way that'll happen is if you have doing some serious appealing, and most schools will tell you, no, we're sorry, but this is how the system works. So again, if the maximum your kid is going to get as a freshman is $5,500, and if the school costs $25,000, guess who's going to be on the hook for the balance? Remember, these companies that provide student loans are not going to loan a 17-year-old or 18-year-old kid more than $5,000. That's it. That is the maximum that they're going to get. So again, you're going to be on the hook as a parent. Parent demographics information, parents' marital status on the day you file the FAFSA, month and year of parents' marriage, parents' birthday, social security numbers. You go back, parent household size, that's very important. College students from July 1 until July 30, 2019. How many are in college at the same time? If legal parents are married, report income and assets for both parents, whether or not they live together or not. If legal parents are living together, report income and assets for both parents, whether they are married to each other or not. All right? So again, they closed some of the loopholes on this. There used to be some loopholes we used to be able to use. If parents are divorced or separate, report income and assets for both parents if they live together, but only for the custodial parent if they don't. Very important. So if you are not with your ex-spouse, you guys have never been married, or say you got a divorce, say you are separated, then it's the parent that the student lives with 51% of the time in the school year. It does not matter who is claiming them on the income tax. That's another big one that you guys probably are like, oh, yes, it doesn't matter. So remember, that's sort of like a little strategy loophole I'm not going to get into right now because I taped this webinar and it's going to get out probably across the country. So I don't want to overstep my boundaries, but this is the bad part. If a custodial parent is remarried, they're going to report the income of also the step parent as well. I just was with a family the other day, and she was thinking about getting married, and they qualified for a ton of financial aid. While she's single, she gets married, they combine the income, it goes down to zero financial aid. I'm not going to tell you what I told them to do because there is a legal strategy that we can use, but bottom line, it involves postponing the wedding. But there's a certain way that you can do it. So anyway, we can talk about that one-on-one. Filling out the FAFSA, the parent financial information, parents' 2016 tax returns is what they're going to use this year. It's going to say, is either parent dislocated worker, did either parent receive federal benefits? That means any assisted lunch, etc., temporary assistance. Were parents eligible to file Form 1040A or 1040EZ in 2016 is going to be asked. Untaxed income, Parents' assets on the day that they submitted the FAFSA is what they're going to need. Net worth of a business. So again, if you own a business, there are some strategies that we can implement, and that should probably save you a little money. Student financial information. Information for the student, again, is basically the same questions. But again, after you complete all this information, guess what this is? This is the final page that you want to get through. You're going to say, wow, I finally got here. My God. So what they're going to do, up top here, you see this is where the student's information is. So what you're going to do is you have the student's social security number, student's last name, date of birth. And what you're going to do is you're going to click right there, agree. And then you're going to put in the, down here, you're going to put in the FSA username and password, and you're going to sign it. Now, the parent on the other side is going to do the same thing if this is all on the same page. So you're going to click agree. Then you're going to put in your username and password, there it is, your username and password, and then you're going to submit my FAFSA. Then your FAFSA is submitted to the federal government. Then what you want to look for, very important that you guys are on this, and I applaud you again. See this number? This number is what you're looking for when you file a FAFSA. How much is the government, what is my expected family contribution? This is something you need to know. Also, what it's going to provide you is, this is the $5,500 that your student is going to be eligible for. Every student in America is eligible for this loan, regardless of whether you make $1 million or $50,000. Doesn't matter. Okay? Now, it may, in California, it may have a section on here where it says to click the button if you want to send this to the California Student Aid Commission. They may have changed it this year. I haven't done one yet this year because FAFSA does not open until October. So again, but look for that when you're completing the FAFSA. If not, there's another link that we recently had that I will be providing on the live workshop on September 26th at Heritage. But this is the number. Now, fortunately, you guys are talking to me because we have software that emulates FAFSA. Wouldn't it be great to know this number if you have a kid that's in 10th grade, 11th grade, 9th grade, to know how much you're going to have to come up with? Gee, that makes it much easier for you to, proactively plan for your kid's college education. So again, when you have to go back and make changes, you log in. After FAFSA, the student will receive award letters. This comes directly from the schools. So again, this is what you're going to look for, but most of you are not going to get this until the spring. So again, you need to understand how to get through these award letters, how to understand them. And that's something that we actually do with each one of our families. We'll understand how much money out of pocket. So after FAFSA. Hello? I think there's someone on the line. Let me see if I can mute you guys. Your audio. Sorry about that. Again, sorry about that. Let me see how we can mute this. So I'm just going to continue. If someone is on the line, I think we are picking you up. I thought you would be muted. Let me see. Thank you. Appreciate it. No, you're still there. I'm just trying to see, and not quite sure how to mute that person out of here. No. Well, let's just continue. Let's get through this. Again, the FAFSA. Hello? I'm sorry about that. How can we? Maybe that's Candace. I think it's Candace that's online. Can you hold your questions until the end, please? Mute. I'm looking for the mute button.
Okay, hopefully you can hear me now. The mute is off. Well, what we're going to do is, okay, you can reply, you can talk in. If you have any questions, you can type them in. But what I want you to actually do is, if you guys want to dig deeper with this, what I'm doing is I'm going to offer you a free one-on-one consultation, 1 hour to see if we can help your family. And again, every family is different when it comes to this process. And that being said, we're going to compute your expected family contribution, and we're going to know exactly what it's going to cost for your kid to go to college. So this is what I want you to do. And I advise you to do it as ASAP if you're interested in getting some help. If you're not, hey, I welcome you to tackle this on your own. But if you are interested in getting some help, this is our phone number to the office. But what I want you to do is send an email to dan@collegemoneypros.com. And by doing that, I will get you on the calendar, and I'll try to get you in prior to September 26th. 3 years ago, when I did a presentation at Heritage High School, the same presentation, I had over 90 requests for one-on-one consultations. So those of you that are on here tonight, I suggest if you would like to find out if we can save you some money, whether we can help you through this process. We have experts on our staff that help the kids. We have a senior program for our seniors right now that will take you through until your kid graduates from high school. It includes our essay personal statement coach. It includes a boot camp. It includes us doing the completing the FAFSA for you. We choose the schools. We'll help you choose the schools that are going to give you money. There's a ton of things that we do. And again, if you're interested in sitting down with us, send me an email. Give me a couple of choices on your calendar. Right now, we are doing 7 days a week. So Saturday, I have a couple Saturday appointments available this Saturday and next Saturday. After that, I'm going Sundays as well. And I will do a Sunday appointment right now because I'm also getting a lot of referrals from our current clients. So again, if you need help, then please feel free to send me an email. We'll get you on the calendar. I need you and your wife and your kid, preferably to bring your student, because your student needs to be on board. You'll come to our office in San Ramon at least one time, and once you do that, I'll give you directions. And again, it'll take an hour, no more than an hour and a half. We'll compute. I'll send you an online form that will provide you with your expected family contribution. And at that point, you'll come on in and we'll see, hey, it's your hour, and we'll be able to answer any questions you may have. I'll ask you a ton of questions as well to find out if there's a way that we can help you. And if I determine that we can help you, then I'll say we have different programs. But if we can't help you, I'll answer all your questions and still be a resource for you. So again, I want to thank you very much for coming on and attending our workshop this evening. And thank you very much. And again, if you want to come on in, right now it's free. As time goes on, that free is going to turn into probably $149 for me to do it, because I'm going to be overwhelmed and it's going to be very costly. So again, thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing your email. Have a very nice evening, and we will see you again. Thank you.